ask why and question everything as a B2B marketer.
This is the Inbound4Cast, a podcast series about inbound marketing and organic growth for B2B companies. Here's your host, Gerald Arcus.
Morgan, welcome. Good morning. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm great. Thank you.
Great. Today we are talking about, I think, mainly two topics. B2B demand generation and I think also a little bit of SEO, because that's your background.
Yeah.
But before we start, I want to thank video agency Play Forward for creating the vertical YouTube and TikTok videos for my podcast. So thanks, Play Forward. And can you start with an introduction of who you are and share one thing that most people don't know about you?
Yeah, for sure. So I am Morgan Petrov. I am an SEO. I'm actually the SEO lead for Chartist Interactive. We are a digital marketing agency, but we also act more as marketing consultants for our clients. So while I do focus on SEO, my expertise does expand a little bit past just the technicalities of SEO. I have been in the industry for, I think, 3 years now as a dedicated SEO. So I got started in this field in 2020 during the height of the pandemic. So I got really lucky with getting an opportunity with another agency, and my career just really exploded after that. I just dove headfirst into SEO, and I have really tried to focus in on industries that have really high compliance regulations. So whether that are medical industries, B2B, financial services, anything that's really regulated, I really enjoy playing around in that because it gives you a set of rules, but I also like to kind of bend the rules just a little bit while still staying compliant. So it's a really fun challenge for me. Right now, I am working with Chartist.io, like I mentioned, and focusing in a lot on the financial services and compliance industries there. And I have a little bit of e-com experience, but it's not quite as fun as working on B2B, which a lot of people don't think of. So
I agree.
Yeah, that's kind of... Oh, come again.
Oh, sorry, I said I agree. B2B is, I like it also more than e-commerce.
Yeah, for sure. I really wasn't sure about it when I first got started just in marketing in general. My first job I ever got after going to university was actually with a B2B industry. And I didn't see the appeal in it. And, when I was in university going for or learning about marketing, we learned a lot about these consumer-facing brands like Coca-Cola and Home Depot and things like that. And I thought, we'll be able to build out, or one day I'll be able to build out like these big, sexy marketing campaigns with billboards and commercials and work for, kind of those big traditional ad agencies. So when I got into B2B, I was a little surprised it wasn't as glamorous up front, but it is such a fun challenge the more that I got into it. And just realized there's a lot more creativity that you are encouraged to use to kind of break outside the box to really build something that is effective. So I've really enjoyed kind of working in this space, and I just never thought I would.
That's great.
Yeah.
And the one thing that most people don't know about you.
One thing that people don't know about me, that's so hard to think about. So I am loosely related to the guy who invented the styrofoam cup.
Sorry, the what?
The styrofoam cup. Maybe they're outlawed in other parts of the world, but the white plastic foam cups, that keep things like insulated. Actually, it's my husband's uncle invented that many years ago, but a weird claim to fame, I guess.
Yeah, indeed. But and where are you from in the US?
So I was originally born in Jackson, Mississippi, so super small town. And then I lived in Dallas for about 5 years. So that's Dallas, Texas. I would consider that to be my home and the place where I kind of feel the most comfortable. Love the big city life. Right now, I am temporarily living in Charleston, South Carolina, while my husband is in law school. So it's been a nice little vacation so far.
All right, great. So I was looking at your website, and there's a lot about SEO, but we talked, we emailed about this podcast episode, and then you started about B2B SaaS demand generation. So why that angle? And of course, this podcast is for B2B marketers, but is this something you do a lot or are interested in, or yeah?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I do focus primarily on SEO. So when I'm looking at metrics and KPIs, SEO is the main thing. But I think we all know that SEO is something that is not, it's not in a vacuum or doesn't exist in a vacuum. And it requires you to look at things like social and how people are interacting with your brand and the way that your website loads. And it's so vast. And that plays in perfectly with all the things that B2B marketers typically don't know or they don't think of. So in my experience, when I really got started more on the SEO side of things rather than content marketing, which was my original background, I noticed the biggest difference between consumer brands. They focus a lot on providing value or providing some kind of experience to their customers. So whether that be makeup tutorials for Benefit Cosmetics or providing recipes for a cooking. What am I thinking of? A cooking equipment company. That's really what gets their customers and it keeps brand loyalty. Well, then I went into the B2B side of things and I noticed the majority of their focus is in demand capture. So we're talking paid ads, things where you can really make this direct contribution from money out, money coming in. But there's only so much that, these clients on the B2B side could reach, and it's due to their budgets. But a lot of clients I work with are also underdogs, so they don't have huge budgets. And I also noticed they just were not willing to put in the time or the effort or the labor to create these really valuable experiences because they have the same mindset of it's B2B, it's pretty straightforward. Everyone knows at least what our product is because they've seen it before, they know about it. And more of my research and my experience, I realized their customers actually don't know about their products or they don't know about, there's this solution out there. So content really became a big part of these strategies with B2B businesses. And that kind of got me thinking along the lines of, well, really what we're doing here, what we need to be doing for our content and bringing in organic traffic is building these valuable experiences, building valuable content resources, things like that to get people coming to our website just to, experiment with our product or learn about the product. So we're really playing this long con, but that's what's going to turn into eventual leads. So yeah, a lot of B2B industries just they skip that demand creation part because they think it's already implied, but really it's not.
Do you think demand generation is already starting to be a bit accepted by most B2B companies in the US? Or do you think there's still a lot to win there?
That's a good question. If you would have asked me this about a year and a half ago, I would have given you a completely different answer. About a year and a half ago, I would have said absolutely not. B2B businesses are still focusing on the paid ad side of things and really just trying to capture the existing demand that's already there. Today is a completely different story. We continuously have this economic scare where we're all so scared of going into a recession and things like that. And, I've noticed a lot of businesses, especially B2B, are really cutting budgets now. And one of the first things to go are ad budgets. So I think they are trying to shift away from that, but now they're left asking, well, what do we do, or how do we market ourselves? And so I've seen ever since the beginning of 2022 just an influx of B2B businesses coming in and inquiring about services, or what they can do, because they just don't simply have the budget to compete with these high rollers, or just to even put ads up in general.
But yeah, I can imagine that some companies start investing in their brand when they are afraid for recession.
Yeah.
But maybe it's also the other way around. Maybe they want to focus even more on short-term revenue.
For sure. Yeah. It's funny. Like I always say, businesses never consider SEO or branding until it's already too late. So what I'm really trying to encourage a lot of my clients or prospective clients is to go ahead and get ahead of that now before it gets too late. So focus on building your brand, building your SEO, building your content, and then maybe some temporary ads to kind of compensate for that incline in traffic. And then when you really start getting your SEO going and you have a solid background, you have a lot of authority in the area, then you can kind of start to scale back your ad spending in a very strategic way.
And how do you think demand generation and SEO are related? Are they related?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that they are so closely related. And I like to call it demand creation, which really is just semantics. But it goes so hand in hand, especially when we're talking about the content side of SEO. What I have noticed that works really, really well as far as content and demand creation goes is creating a page or a piece of content that provides a solution to something that your prospect may have never even known existed in the first place. My husband, he actually used to be in sales before he decided to make a career change. And one of the things he'd always tell me about his sales calls is that people didn't know that they needed a product until they got onto these sales calls, or they didn't know that they had a problem until they got on these sales calls. So when
But
we are
that can be hard. Can be hard for SEO as well, right? Because if people don't know it, they might not search for it.
Yeah. If you are a project management platform, how am I as a project manager going to know to type in the search bar project management software if I don't know that I have this problem? So typically, let's say, keeping this hypothetical, where SEO really starts and where this demand creation process kind of starts at is someone looking up a problem, like how do I better manage a team, or how do I assign deliverables to my teammates, or how do I delegate tasks. So starting off and building out an experience around those questions is what's going to get someone to enter into your website at the first, in the beginning. And then that's where your demand capture can come into play. After that, it's serving retargeting ads and things like that. But no one's going to come into the door if you're not providing this solution or this valuable experience to someone. And so on the SEO side of things, is once that piece of content for demand creation has been built, what my job is to make sure that it's visible for SEO and people who are searching. So doing more of the technicalities around it, but really it starts off with that strategy in the very early stages.
And when you are doing that, are you alone in wanting to create that kind of content, or do you see that a lot of other roles from a marketing team also want this content, maybe for social media, for email, for other platforms or channels?
Yeah. In B2B, I see a lot of hesitancy with clients who are, I see they're hesitant to expand into other channels. I think a lot of these B2B marketing teams are really small, and they kind of get really frustrated, or they don't think that they have enough time to, cross post something to Instagram or Twitter, LinkedIn, things like that. But again, it's a really good way to create your demand is by taking, your piece of content and turning it into something that can easily be seen on social media. LinkedIn is a really great platform for generating demand just because of the way that the LinkedIn algorithm serves content to you, and the way that your network plays a role into that. And so you can really hit a lot of niches with just one piece of content, depending on the way that you share the content.
Yeah, indeed. And I think I saw something on your LinkedIn profile, I think a post about SEO when you don't have search volumes. How do you see that? Because I can imagine that in a lot of cases for B2B, but also maybe for problems that people don't know they have, the search volumes are zero.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
what to do then?
It's really, really common to just not have search volume for even the names of products or the kind of like a description of the product. It's really rare to come across that. And it's even more rare to come across keywords that are related to problems that people may have. But it may be more likely to find some search volume for those terms than the product descriptions. But yeah, we see a lot of clients who kind of have this outdated perspective of SEO. They believe, you only target keywords that have like a good volume and they're low competition. And that's a good strategy depending on what your website is or what you're selling or who you're selling to. But, if you are in a very niche industry, and I have an article coming out about this actually next week, August 21st, with Women in Tech SEO, about how to kind of find keywords when you're stuck in like a super niche area. And really what it comes down to is ignoring keywords in general. So you really have to understand who is buying your product and what their problems are, and focus on building content around that first. And
I like
again,
that.
providing this valuable experience and valuable content rather than just pushing your product. And you'll start to see a lot more traffic coming in. Now, you can use your traditional keyword tools to kind of give you an idea, but it's not going to be nearly as niche. So starting on these very short tail keywords, that can kind of help you lead into, well, what type of content do you need to go into? But one of the best things that I have found to be like super successful in this is actually doing qualitative research. So whether that is sending out surveys to existing customers or maybe prospective customers, that's a really good way to get some qualitative data from them, giving them open-ended answers of like, how does our product solve your problems, and just getting some testimonials, but also just reaching out to your sales teams, because your sales team, they really are boots on the ground day to day with the customers, talking to the customers every day. They really understand what their problems are. So if you can find a champion, quote unquote champion, in your sales team, or someone who can collaborate with, and you can understand like what kind of problems your customer bases are facing, that'll give you a really good idea of what kind of content they probably are already searching for, and just kind of enhance your visibility that way.
Yeah, and then I think maybe that part is a little bit hard for some companies. Maybe they don't want to let you talk to their customers. Do you notice that, or?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with finding this synergy between multiple departments and companies, it'll depend on how big the company is. But from my experiences working in-house in a really big industry, teams really like to silo themselves off. They have their roles and their responsibilities, and they don't tend to want to venture out. So that is definitely a problem. Another problem with working with sales teams, and I can speak from personal experience, is that sales thinks that they're better than marketing, and marketing thinks that they're better than the sales team. But in reality, they both are working alone, but when they work together, they're really, really good. They can build out these really amazing experiences. And it makes sense because marketing is the persuasive element of sales. It is the demand creation side of making revenue, while sales is more of the capturing process of making revenue for the business. So I think that if companies can figure out a way to align with their sales team, they can just see far better collaboration and better content creation processes. And that's another thing that we kind of specialize with in my agency. As consultants, we don't only focus on, your strategy, but how is your company structured, and how can you better collaborate with other teams and get a better process going. And so that's definitely one of the places where I've been able to see a lot of results with my clients, is just getting their marketing and their sales teams to talk to each other.
Yeah, that's great and important.
Yeah.
And I think something that a lot of B2B marketers are talking about for a very long time, but I'm not sure if it's changing. I think we are still struggling with that.
It takes a lot of encouragement to get them to break out of what they're used to. Being in what is perceived as this quote unquote boring sector of business. They get very comfortable and complacent, or maybe they're scared to jump outside. But that's what we as consultants are here for, is to try to encourage you to break the mold and try different things, because clearly you're coming to an agency or wanting to ramp up your marketing abilities for a reason. And that's, definitely where we come in.
But then let's say that you are ignoring the search volumes and you are talking with customers, with sales, you get a lot of valuable input. Then it still can be very challenging to create very good content, right? Because most times these topics are very specific and technical and complex for a copywriter who doesn't know the industry. So how do you approach that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the first thing is working with not just a copywriter. I think that was definitely the norm when I got started in content marketing. So circa 2017, it was just give, a couple of keywords to a copywriter, tell them to get creative and write around this set of keywords. And that worked. But then Google released BERT and kind of crashed everything. So now I think where SEO copywriting is going is not just sending it to a copywriter, but is sending it to an industry expert, someone who really understands the field. So giving them a keyword, or maybe reframing the keyword from that to a topic. So thinking about this topic and handing it to an industry expert, getting their opinion, their unique insights into this topic or keyword, and seeing what they come out with. Then SEO always goes in, monitors, make sure that it's written in easy to read language. It's not too technical, but doing that is going to just help you rank for a larger variety of keywords, or appear in the SERPs for a larger variety, rather than just being so laser focused on that one particular keyword that you just tried to stuff into the article a million times.
Yeah, I agree. But are you sometimes also thinking that is SEO still the right term for what you are doing? Because I think you are doing good marketing and creating content that can be used on a lot of different platforms. Yeah. And that is helping you to create a brand, B2B brands. So is that still SEO?
Yeah, that's a really good take. And I don't necessarily think that search engine optimization is the right term for what I do. And if I had to come up with a word for what I do, I don't know if I could think about it, because it is branding for a client. It does deal with aspects of digital PR. It is content marketing. It's even kind of sales in a way. We also touch on user experience. So the best, and even social media, I think that's a really big one too. And that could be considered search engine optimization in a way. But it's really more of this, what I see it as is SEO is at the middle of all of this. And then each of those individual marketing disciplines are kind of webbed out from it. So I almost see us as the ringleader, the orchestrator that kind of helps just increase visibility, but also building connections with consumers. So I don't want to say this stupid word, but maybe marketing guru is just the best way to put it.
Yeah, I don't know the right term for it as well. And I'm struggling with that for, I think, almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
From inbound marketing to content marketing. Right now, I'm using organic growth. But
Okay.
yeah, still looking for the right term.
I like it. Or something along the lines of experience optimization could be something along that. I don't know. We'll work out the kinks later.
Indeed. I also saw an article on your website about the careers of SEO consultants. Maybe that's a bit related to this discussion as well, right?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think that was a webinar that I recently did with SERPstat. So they're a SEO research tool, and I've really enjoyed working with them over the past couple of months. But the talk was about how to build your SEO career, and also nurture your mental health as well. And one of the topics that we talked about in this webinar was heading into the direction of developing a growth mindset. So that essentially breaks down to taking everything, whether that is a success or a failure, and seeing everything as a growth opportunity or a lesson to be learned. Really fascinating once you really start to get into the psychology of it, but I won't deep dive into that too much for now. But there is this graph that kind of shows you where you start off before establishing a growth mindset. So you are complacent, you are maybe not super satisfied, you're kind of longing for something more, but you're scared to break out of your comfort zone, and you're scared to fail. You're scared that you are going to do something that is not, it's not kosher, I guess, for the lack of better terms. You just kind of get stuck into this monotony and this routine. But when you start to develop this growth mindset to grow your career, but also to grow your business, you start getting a little more fearless because you're more willing to experiment with things. You are challenging the norm. You're challenging that complacency, and you're trying new things, and you're a little adventurous and living life on the wild side. But you know that you are going, whether it fails or it succeeds, you're learning something from that experience, and using your own experiences to challenge your convictions. So I see that a lot with B2B businesses, when a lot of them are stuck in that fear zone or that comfort zone, and they're like, well, this is the way we've always done it, or this is what has worked for us the last 20 years. However, in marketing, we know it evolves a lot faster than 20 years. So it is a big part of my job is to encourage brands to jump out of that comfort zone and start getting more into experimentation and playing around with their brand, playing around with their content. And if it works, that's fantastic. We know what works for us. But if it doesn't, well, we can use process of elimination. We learned from that. Let's not do that again, but let's tweak it and see how we can get it to work. And that's really how you get a successful B2B strategy off the ground and start to see these results, rather than just sticking with your normal publication guidelines and cadences.
Yeah, I agree. I think that can be hard for some B2B in-house marketers.
Yeah.
Because the organization maybe don't let them experiment and make mistakes, things like that.
Right.
But it is important. Related to this, do you think also a lot of SEO people are struggling with their career because of the search generative experience and a lot of the changes that are happening?
Yeah, there are two sides of this. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. I think there are three sides to this. you see a lot of people who are absolutely completely freaking out right now because they are experimenting with SGE in their own searches, and they see SGE takes up the entire above fold content, and they're like, oh my god, there's no way that we're ever going to be able to get into this. Like, let me just kind of start to take a career change. And I've seen a lot of people exiting the SEO industry. Now, on the flip side, I've seen a lot of people who are already trying to hack SGE, or they're trying to figure out the next best thing. And that's kind of where I think I fall in this. I'm very fascinated by how SGE pulls in its results, and what the future of it is, and how is SEO going to play a role into SGE. And I think it's going to look like something we've never seen before. And it's still just that process of mapping out what is it going to look like, what is it going to take. And I have a couple of thoughts on it, but that's a whole thesis right there. And then the other side of it are people who just don't care and think it's going to go away, which
Yeah, indeed.
is fair.
I see that group as well, indeed, but I think they will see it in a few months. But for the middle group, I also see some people who say, well, then we start doing chatbot optimization or whatever the term should be.
Yeah.
But then my opinion is, okay, you can do that. And of course you can influence it because Bart can use your company name or things like that, mention you, link to you in some answers. But I think in a lot of cases, it's a combination of all of your online presence together that can help you to be visible in the output of Bart.
Yeah.
And then I think doing all of that, that's a lot of work, optimizing that, just to be in a few answers, isn't that a lot of work? Can that have a positive return on investment? I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah. I think intentionally trying to dominate the SERPs, and trying to have your business, linked in the SGE results may not be very fruitful for businesses. However, I'll tell you what is the journey to trying to get there. What I have noticed is that Bart, really is trying to pull in sources not only that are first party and pulled from your about page, but they're also pulling in, especially for my SaaS clients, things from like reviews from G2 or descriptions from these third party kind of like aggregator websites. So it's pulling that in. It's also pulling in things from social media. So like past tweets I've even seen pulled into the SGE results. And what I see a lot of clients doing is that they do see how their brand is portrayed in the SGE results right now. And they'll look and they say, well, that's not accurate, or that is only halfway accurate. So then it allows us to kind of go back and almost reverse engineer the way that they pulled together our results, and then go look at these individual sources and make sure that our brand is properly represented across these third-party aggregators or marketplaces or social media. And then it allows us to say, well, what do we need to focus more on if SGE is going to be providing this kind of information? Do we need to regularly interact with our marketplace profiles? Do we need to maybe ramp up our Twitter account and post something that encompasses more of who we are rather than just resharing news articles? It's allowed, us to do a lot more.
Yeah, and maybe there's then different parts of it. So there's one part where you can fix the wrong information. You can see where it's coming from and then try to fix it. Then maybe there's the low-hanging fruit with your about page and your main pages. Make sure they are, they contain good content. And of course, you have to do that right now as well. But maybe that part will become a little bit more important. And then maybe you have a part where SEO visibility is a consequence of doing very good marketing, branding, demand generation. Maybe the things you don't do for SEO, but SEO can benefit from them.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen a lot of brands that, kind of neglect the branding elements, or their digital reach. So a lot of things I hear are, well, we know who we are, we know what our product is, and that's all we need. We just need to increase our visibility. I'm like, okay, well, you kind of can't have one without the other. They always want to neglect their about page because their idea is, well, we don't want traffic to come into the about page. But SGE allows me to say, well, people aren't coming into your about page, but your brand is represented based on your about page. So we need to put in these particular elements that explain what we do or why we are experts, which that'll get into authority and help out with your ranking as well. But just better displaying like who you are, dropping the buzzwords and just getting to what are we good at and how do we benefit you. Definitely is going to help out with the SGE, but also just branding in general, which is going to have an impact on your organic traffic coming in too.
And EEAT, of course.
Yes, absolutely. I have a lot of clients too that are really good at what they do and they have some really good content, but they don't have that topical authority yet, which being in a highly regulated industry, we know is just so important to establish why you are the authority in the subject matter. And I think that being able to optimize for SGE or optimize your brand for SGE is going to help out building that topical authority to help that piece of content rank. And see, we're getting into the process where SEO is just not linear the way that other channels are.
Yeah. And then, for example, being a guest in a podcast, I think it can be a great way to show Google that you have a lot of knowledge about a topic.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of things. And maybe SEO is one small benefit, but I think it's more a consequence than the main goal why people are guests in a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other side of AI. I hear a small echo. I don't think the listeners will notice that well, but the other side of AI, we have, of course, AI in the Google search results, but also it's becoming a bigger part of a lot of processes for marketing, for SEO. Is it changing your work already a lot?
It's taking care of the not so sexy things that I don't like to do. I've actually been having very heated discussions with my husband to my husband about this conversation around AI. So I'll be the first to admit that I do use AI in a lot of my processes. Like, for example, I want to write an article on a particular topic. I have the idea in my head, but I maybe don't know how to put pen to paper or how to organize my thoughts. So I will, record my voice and then transcribe it, put it into AI and say, organize this in an efficient way. And it's fantastic to do that. That's like my favorite cheat to do. I do it with like presentations for webinars all the time because I don't know if you can notice this, but I'm very on one side, then I jump to the other side. I'm just very scatterbrained, but I have a lot of great ideas in my head. Just getting them out on paper, very difficult.
Yeah, I was talking about this with a colleague, another SEO consultant from the Netherlands. And he said, I want to maybe, for example, have a WhatsApp group with myself and be able to send myself daily a lot of voice recordings and then build a database with all of my knowledge, my perspectives, things like that, and automatically feed it to speech to text, then to, for example, GPT-4 or whatever, and then start creating content with it. And I think that will be the future. But how do you do it? Do you have a favorite transcript tool or?
Yeah, normally it is just me talking into my cell phone in the Notes app, just doing that. And then I just copy and paste it into ChatGPT 3.5, so the free version that you can get right now. And I simply just ask it to organize my thoughts. Or if I'm doing like a webinar, I'll say like, organize this into a webinar presentation. I need 45 minutes worth of content. Here are my ideas. Kind of feed it some good instructions, because AI is only as good as the prompt you give it. Now, and it's fantastic for doing that. It's great for getting ideas. I've gotten, if I'm really, really stuck in just a rut where I cannot think of any kind of content, or a particular idea, or if I'm just really new to the industry, I'll type into ChatGPT. I'll say, what are things that people should know? What are things that B2B marketers should know about podcasting? And it'll kind of spit out a list, and it at least gives me a good jumping off point to kind of start thinking a little bit more critically about these particular things that a marketer should know. And that's where AI's limit stops, because AI does not have necessarily the same type of critical thinking skills that we humans have. It can't, I say it can't. It more than likely will never be able to spit out a new original idea, or build out this original idea. That is where the power of humans are. That is where the power of human generated content really come into play. But flip side, if you are a content writer and there is one paragraph or an intro that you just cannot spit out, I love using ChatGPT to say, here's my article, write me an introduction or write me a conclusion. I'm stuck. And it'll spit something out, requires a little bit of tweaking, like fantastic tool to use when you are just stuck. But if you need to make an original idea or an analysis, AI maybe is not the best way to go.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
I think we are going to the end of the podcast. Have we missed anything important related to SEO or demand generation that you want to share in this episode?
Yeah, let's see. I wrote down a couple of notes of just things to make sure to cover. I know one. So when it comes to demand creation, I think a lot of people are stuck talking. They're stuck in the weeds of their product, and they don't know how to advertise their product to a potential prospect. So a good thing with this brand SEO or this brand experience, client experience kind of thing is understanding how your product will not only just benefit your end user or your prospect, but really getting into the idea of understanding what is going to make your end user look like an absolute rock star when it comes to the end of the day. So what is something that is going to what's going to help them reach their goals in order to get a promotion, or what's going to help them with their goals? That's the kind of content that you need to be creating to generate this demand. I cannot tell you how many people are online, whether that is TikTok, Google, but regardless, they are searching for ways to advance their career, because you just don't learn about this stuff in school. There are not a lot of webinars out there on how to advance your career in XYZ industry or XYZ role. So people are going online and searching for that. So if you are building content that helps your client get to that next level in their careers, you are going to start to see a lot more engagement. You're going to see a lot more clicks for getting a demo or reaching out to a salesperson. So that is such a valuable experience that so many people miss, because I think B2B marketers are they are marketing to a business, or they're marketing to the CEO. And the CEO is the one who writes the check, but they're not the ones looking for these solutions to fix, a problem. So such a missed opportunity there.
Indeed. Anything else to add?
Last thing is just ask why and question everything. As a B2B marketer, ask why you are putting a video that slows down your entire website on your homepage. What kind of value is it providing? And question every decision, every process that has ever been laid out before, because you'll start to get more and more creative ideas on how you can grow from what has already been laid out in front of you. But other than that, I think that's it.
All right. I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
if you could go back 10 years in time with a time machine, what advice would you give yourself?
That's really funny because about 10 years ago, I was a freshman in college. Wait, no, it's 2020. No, I was a junior in high school. But if I could tell myself any advice in high school, it would be don't be embarrassed that you got kicked out of your high school chemistry class because chemistry is not your thing and neither is math. Go into marketing because if I would have figured that out a lot earlier, that those were two things that they just weren't good for me. I would have had a lot more. I would have gotten to marketing a lot sooner. And I think I would have told myself to be proud of being really good at writing. And no, the best piece of advice I could have given myself is take coding classes. We never had to learn that. And now I had to teach myself HTML and Java and all of these languages, which is really hard to do on your own. But I could have been way ahead of the curve had I taken a computer language class.
Yeah, but was that a possibility to do that?
It would have been in college. You could have taken one computer science language course, or you could take 4 semesters of a foreign language. And I wasted 4 semesters trying to learn Spanish, and it was no better than what I learned in high school.
Well, I had some coding classes a lot in different languages, and I don't remember anything of it because I didn't like that part. I thought I wanted to be a programmer, but that's not for me. Yeah. So I think you also have to really like it. And the things I liked, I did that also in my free time. I was doing a lot with Photoshop and building websites. So they tried to learn me that, but that part I already know. So it's hard, I think, to do it well.
Yeah, I think about 10 years ago, I would have been very intimidated by learning coding in any form. And I probably would have gotten boring with it. I've always loved the arts a little bit more in history and really things that are more right-brained. So I probably would have blown off my computer language classes, but I would have been a lot less scared entering into SEO. I was really intimidated by the coding aspect, or I was intimidated by an H2 tag. I did not know what that was or what the importance was. I thought you just went to WordPress and you bolded a couple of letters and that was your subhead. But now going through like W3 schools and learning a couple different languages, it's not as scary, but it definitely would have been less intimidating.
And of course, AI is a solution for that as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Some people think that developers will be gone in 2 or 3 years and everything will be done by AI. So I'm not sure, to be honest.
Oh, I can't speak to that. I can only speak to it in the terms of SEO. I have asked ChatGPT, even just the very basic free version, to code a couple of things for me or code out like schema markup, and it's done really, really well. But, again, it might be kind of the same idea of AI can't contribute a unique idea. It's only trained on past language models. So maybe there's something there for developers where you just have to continuously code new things, or I don't know. I'm starting to speak out of my knowledge zone.
I don't know as well. We will see. Thanks a lot for the nice conversation.
Absolutely.
And
thank you.
Where can people find or follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, or X, I guess, as Elon is calling it, at Morgan Searches, and you can find me on LinkedIn at Morgan Petrov. I believe the URL is linkedin.com/Morgan T. Lawrence. I still have not redirected my LinkedIn URL to my new last name. And you can email me at any, actually, scratch that. I don't want people emailing me about link building. I would have given that to some other people. But yeah. I learned that from my last webinar. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's great. Again, thanks a lot and have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Inbound4Cast. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app.